I've always loved mornings on the ranch. There's something about the stillness before the world fully wakes up, the soft shuffle of hooves, the way the fog lingers low across the field, and the quiet hum of the coffee machine inside the kitchen that makes everything feel right. Even with Grady gone these past few weeks, the rhythm hasn't changed much. He always said the land had a pulse of its own, and once you learn it, you can't help but move with it. And he's right. I still wake up early, throw on one of his old flannels, and head straight out to the stables before the sun climbs over the trees. Kingston, our horse, is always waiting. Ears up, like he's been counting down the minutes. He's a sweet thing. Strong, sure, but gentle in a way that only animals seem to master. The kind that leans his head into your chest if you're having a rough day and doesn't need anything more than a pat on the neck to understand you completely. That's how it's been lately, just me, Kingston, and the quiet. Grady's been working with a research team upstate, something with crop sustainability. He's passionate like that. Always chasing big ideas, always thinking 10 steps ahead. It's part of what I love most about him. And when he's not knee-deep in soil samples or farm data, he's thinking up new content for our YouTube channel. We started it as a way to document life out here, how we manage the land, the bond we share with our animals, the beauty of simplicity. Nothing flashy. Just us, the ranch, and whatever wild idea he came up with next. He's the creative one. I'm usually the one behind the scenes, cleaning up after the goats or fixing broken fencing while he's adjusting camera angles. But yesterday, something shifted. I was brushing Kingston down when Grady's email came in. The subject line read, "Film this for me?" Nothing unusual. But when I opened it, the message didn't feel like one of his typical brainstorms. It wasn't casual or half-baked. It was polished. Word-for-word instructions. He laid out a full concept, shots he wanted, how I should move around Kingston, even the lighting and time of day. He called it a tribute video. Said it'd be beautiful. Said the audience would love it. I read it twice, maybe 3 times. It wasn't just the detail, it was the tone. The way he described it didn't sound like him. It sounded like a production. Like something already mapped out, like he'd been planning it for weeks without telling me. Still, I shrugged it off. Maybe he was just excited. Maybe he missed me and needed a creative outlet to stay connected. That's what I told myself. And yet, something didn't sit right. The part that really got me was the closing line. Don't overthink it. Just trust the process. You and Kingston, you've got magic. Capture it. That should have made me smile. But instead, I felt this tight little knot form in the pit of my stomach. Like my body noticed something my brain hadn't quite caught up with. I closed the email, walked out to the pasture, and watched Kingston graze in the golden light. He looked up at me, flicked his ears, and went back to chewing. And I just stood there, holding my phone like it might bite. Was I reading too much into this? Or was there something behind that email I wasn't supposed to question? At first, I thought I was overreacting. Grady was just being Grady. He gets caught up in ideas, always has. I've seen him plan out entire video series in a single afternoon, pacing back and forth across the porch, scribbling on napkins, calling it vision work. So when the text started coming in later that evening, I told myself it was normal. Just him missing me. He sent a voice note right after dinner. "Babe, that shot you did with Kingston's head against your shoulder? It was amazing. Can you redo it tomorrow but with a softer light? Like, golden hour. Oh, and wear that blue flannel. You look more authentic in that one. More authentic." That word caught me off guard. But I let it slide. The next day, he sent another email, longer this time. With camera placements, lighting diagrams, and even a draft script. He titled it The Bond, A Story of Silence and Trust. I remember reading that and thinking, wait, whose story is this? But again, I brushed it off. He was far away, probably lonely, just trying to stay involved. And I missed him too. I really did. So I filmed what he asked. I moved the tripod out to the east paddock right as the sun dipped low, changed into the blue flannel, and stood in the tall grass next to Kingston. Grady wanted me to let Kingston nuzzle me more, saying it was what people connect with, the emotion, the unspoken connection. So I let the horse nudge his nose into my side, leaned down a little, and smiled the way he told me to. I felt silly. But I did it. Then came the new request. Could you lie down in the hay? Just for a second. Whisper something to him. You know, make it intimate. Let the moment breathe. Intimate. That word sat heavy in my throat. Still, I did it. Not because I believed in the video. Not even because I believed in the idea. I did it because I love him. Because this was our thing, our shared passion. Because saying no felt like letting him down. But the longer I filmed, the less it felt like ours. I started noticing things I hadn't before. The barn, usually my favorite place, began to feel different. Too quiet. Too staged. The wood creaked louder. The smell of hay didn't calm me like it used to. Even Kingston seemed uneasy, flicking his ears, shifting beneath me, as if he could sense I wasn't fully present. And maybe I wasn't. I started doubting myself, wondering if I was being uptight, if I was somehow ruining the magic Grady saw so clearly. I caught myself thinking, he's just passionate. I'm the one being dramatic. But deep down, something was off. It wasn't just the filming. It was how choreographed it all felt, how every movement had to mean something. It was like I'd stopped being his wife and started playing the role of someone else. A symbol. A character. Still, I kept going. Out of habit. Out of loyalty. Out of some small hope that if I just followed the steps, I'd start to feel connected again. Maybe this was his way of keeping us close. So that night, I uploaded a draft video to our shared cloud. Labeled it private, not final. I didn't even watch it back. I just wanted it off my phone. I wanted to rest. But before I went to bed, I opened YouTube to check on an old cooking tutorial I'd posted weeks ago, and that's when I saw it. A new video on one of Grady's side channels. The thumbnail was familiar, my face, eyes closed, pressed into Kingston's neck. The title read, When You Love Something That Can't Speak Back, Raw Farm Moment. I clicked it. It was my footage. Cut up. Edited. Scored with soft music. My whispers, barely audible, looped like dialogue in a short film. And I wasn't smiling in it. I looked tired. Raw. Like I was holding something in. And then it hit me. I hadn't cried during filming. Not once. But in his version? He clipped the exact frame where my eyes were glassy, where the sun hit just right and made it look like a tear rolled down my cheek. He made me look broken. And people were watching. The comments had already started. This hit deeper than I expected. I've never seen something so honest. She looks like she's in love with that horse. I closed my laptop. Just like that, the air felt too thick. The walls of our home, this place we built together, suddenly felt like a set. My own reflection in the dark window felt like a stranger's. I turned off the lights and stood in the kitchen, hands gripping the edge of the counter, heart racing. And in that silence, one thought kept circling. Is this still our story, or is it just his now? It started with a buzz. I'd just barely opened my eyes that morning, sunlight barely creeping through the linen curtains, when my phone lit up. Over and over. Buzz. 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 Missed calls. Texts. Notifications from apps I didn't even remember installing. I sat up, still half asleep, blinking at the screen. My stomach dropped. Girl, are you okay? I just saw the video. What's going on? This wasn't what I expected, you look so lost. At first, I thought something happened to Grady. Maybe he'd posted something personal. Or that something had gone wrong on his end of the project. But when I clicked the link someone sent me, my heart stuttered. It was me. It was me, on YouTube. In the barn. Holding Kingston's face, whispering into his mane. Crying. But I never posted this. I never cried during that shoot. I tapped the pause button and stared at the thumbnail, me, lying in the hay, eyes half closed, lips parted like I was confessing something sacred. It was the exact angle I hated. The one I told Grady not to use because it didn't feel like me. Except now it was everywhere. The title read, "When Love Looks Like Devotion, a Silent Confession." Posted under a different account. Not our joint channel. Not even under his name. My ears rang. My breath caught halfway in my chest. I scrolled. He'd taken everything. Every private draft, every moment I second-guessed, every look I gave Kingston while the camera was still rolling. And he cut them together, tight, moody, raw. With slow motion. With music. With filters that made it all look dreamy, like I was in some trance. And the comments. This feels unnatural. But also deeply intimate. Is this woman okay? She's either a genius, or seriously unwell. I've never seen something this vulnerable and strange. Is it real? I dropped the phone onto the bed like it was burning. My hands were shaking. My face felt hot, and my body, suddenly, felt too small. Like my skin didn't fit anymore. I tried to steady myself, walking barefoot across the floor to the kitchen, where I splashed cold water on my face. It didn't help. I couldn't stop seeing the video, my face, my voice, warped into something I didn't recognize. So I called him. Grady answered on the second ring, cheerful as ever. Hey, babe. You're up early. I didn't even say hello. What did you do? He paused, then chuckled like I'd just accused him of something cute. You saw it, huh? It's blowing up already. People love it. You posted it? I asked, my voice thin and tight. You edited it, uploaded it, without asking me? His tone didn't change. Come on, Naya. It's art. You looked incredible. I didn't think you'd mind, it's not like you said not to use it. I closed my eyes, pressing my palm to my forehead. I labeled it private, Grady. You knew I wasn't done. That I wasn't sure. You didn't even give me a chance to say no. He sighed. Like I was being difficult. Look, this could help us. It's getting shared everywhere. People are connecting with it. You're a star now. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. That's when I realized. This wasn't a mistake. This was planned. He'd known. He'd known I would hesitate. That I'd worry about how it looked. That I'd need time. So he didn't give it to me. He just took what he wanted and packaged it for the world. And I wasn't a partner anymore. I was content. I stared out the window, Kingston grazing in the distance, completely unaware that he'd been made part of a spectacle he never signed up for. Just like me. My chest tightened. I could barely breathe. A hot mix of panic and humiliation crawled up my throat. I didn't even recognize myself in that video, but thousands of strangers thought they did. Grady's voice buzzed in my ear. Just smile more in the next one, okay? It'll feel more natural. I couldn't speak. He told me to smile. But all I felt was shame. I stopped answering his calls. At first, I thought maybe I was being immature. Maybe I owed him a chance to explain. But every time his name lit up my phone, Grady, with that photo of us smiling at the summer fair 2 years ago, I felt sick. I didn't want to see his face. I didn't want to hear his voice twisted into that sweet, rehearsed tone he used when he wanted me to soften. I didn't want to listen to him make this all sound like a misunderstanding. So I didn't pick up. Instead, I pulled the curtains tighter. I stopped filming. I stayed out of the barn except to feed Kingston and check the stalls. And even Kingston had changed. He'd grown restless, pacing more, tossing his head when I got near. He flinched at the sight of the camera mounted on the beam, like he'd learned to associate that little red light with something heavy, something false. I got a message from Harmony, someone I hadn't spoken to in months. "Hey. I just saw what he posted. Is this really what you wanted?" No. It wasn't. I sat with that message for a while, staring at it, the words blurring. Then I opened a blank document and started writing Grady a letter. It wasn't planned. It just spilled. I told him everything. How I felt used. How he crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. How I couldn't look at my own face without feeling like a stranger was staring back. How he turned me into a storyline, a product. I wrote pages. But when I finished, I didn't send it. Because I knew what he'd say. And I wasn't ready to hear him minimize it. Not yet. But that night, I couldn't help myself. I rewatched the videos. All of them. Each one edited tighter than the last. Each one is more dramatic, more romantic, more stylized. He'd even layered soft piano music over my footage, slow and syrupy, like something out of a love story. There were fades and zooms, voiceovers clipped from my old voice memos. He'd turned me into an illusion. A concept. I sat in the corner of the barn, knees pulled to my chest, head resting against the post. And I sobbed. Quietly. Like if I kept it small enough, maybe it wouldn't be real. I didn't even realize the camera was still on. That it was blinking red. I'd forgotten to turn it off. Just like I'd forgotten where the line was between love and control. The next morning, he showed up. Unannounced. I heard his truck tires crunch the gravel before I saw him. My heart stopped. I hadn't prepared for this. My hair was tied back in a lazy knot. I had hay stuck to my jeans. My face still felt puffy from crying. I opened the door before he could knock. He looked surprised. Then he smiled. "Hey," he said, like nothing was wrong. Like we were still us. I didn't smile back. "You need to explain," I said, my voice flat. He stepped inside like he owned the air. "Look, Naya, I know it got big fast. But that's a good thing. People are paying attention. You're not just some girl on a farm anymore." I stared at him. "That's not your choice to make." He raised an eyebrow. "What are you talking about? You took footage you weren't supposed to use. You made it something it wasn't. You turned me into," I struggled for the word. "A fantasy." Grady waved a hand like he was brushing away lint. "Come on. It's a vibe. It's emotional. It's art." "No," I said, louder now. "It's exploitation." He laughed. Like I was being cute again. "You're overreacting." And there it was. That familiar smirk. The soft tone meant to smooth over my anger. The little shrug that always came right before he told me I was being too sensitive. I looked at him and saw someone I didn't recognize. When did this become okay to him? When did my real life stop mattering? And the worst part was, I let it happen. Little by little. One compromise at a time. One shrug. One "sure, I'll do that" shot. One more time ignoring my gut. My voice cracked. "I loved you. I trusted you. And you used me." His face hardened. "I made you. Without me, no one would even know who you are." I snapped. Something inside me just broke clean in half. I stepped back. Not because I was scared. But because I needed space, space from him, space from this warped version of our life, space from the weight of that blinking camera in the corner of the barn. And in the quiet that followed, I thought back to when things were different. In the mornings we'd drink coffee in bed before going out to feed the chickens. At the time he surprised me with that silly poem written on seed packets. To the way he used to look at me like I was the whole world, not a brand. I missed that man. But he wasn't standing in front of me. He was gone. And whoever took his place only saw me as something to capture, to cut, to monetize. I looked him in the eye and said the one thing I hadn't allowed myself to believe until that moment. You don't see me anymore. You only see the version of me that benefits you. And he didn't deny it. He just looked down, shrugged, and said, "It worked, didn't it?" I didn't lose my dignity all at once. He took it, frame by frame. And I gave it, silence by silence. It was still dark when I woke up. Not because of an alarm or the sound of Kingston pawing at the stall, but because something inside me finally stopped whispering and started telling me the truth, loud and clear. I got up without turning on the lights. Slipped on my boots, grabbed a hoodie, and walked out to the barn in the soft blue hour before sunrise. The air was cool and damp. The kind of quiet that usually calmed me. But this time it felt like a clean slate. A pause between the past and whatever comes next. Kingston was already waiting, like he'd been expecting me. He lifted his head when I walked in, then slowly came forward, eyes soft, ears forward. I ran a hand down his neck, feeling the warmth of his skin beneath my palm. No tension. No camera. Just him. Just me. I set up the tripod in the center of the barn, not for Grady, not for the channel. For me. No makeup. No filters. No angles. I hit a record. I stood beside Kingston, my hand resting gently on his shoulder, and I spoke. No script. No plan. Just the truth. This isn't about a horse, I said. It's about consent. And silence. And how easily both can be stolen without you even realizing it. My voice didn't shake. I wasn't crying. I felt steady in a way I hadn't in weeks. I didn't rant. I didn't try to explain every detail. I didn't name names. I just told the truth. Then I turned off the camera. Pulled out the memory card. Walked back inside and sat down at the kitchen table. I opened Grady's shared drive, the one where all our content lived. One by one, I deleted the folders. Not out of anger. But because they didn't belong to me anymore. Because somewhere along the way, those videos stopped being ours and started being his. Because I deserved to close that door. Click. Delete. Confirm. And with each one, I felt lighter. Afterward, I picked up my phone and called Elena Berry, a therapist in the city. She answered on the third ring. I didn't say much. Just told her I was ready to talk. She gave me a Tuesday slot. It felt small, but big at the same time. I didn't text Grady. I didn't send the email I drafted. I didn't tell him what I deleted. Some truths don't need to be explained. Just lived. Later that afternoon, I sat down at my old writing desk, one I hadn't touched since before the videos took over everything, and pulled out a notepad. Not my laptop. Not the cloud. Just a blank page and a pen. And I wrote a new script. Not for the internet. Not for the channel. For me. It was messy. Personal. Honest. I didn't worry about tone or lighting or who it might reach. It was never meant to be seen. It was closed. By sunset, I was back in the barn, feeding Kingston apple slices and brushing out his mane. The golden light poured through the cracks in the wood like it always did, warm and familiar. The same barn. The same horse. But I wasn't the same. And as Kingston nudged his nose into my side again, I didn't feel like a character. I didn't feel filmed. I didn't feel content. I felt real. He wanted the perfect shot. But the moment I turned the camera off, that's when I saw myself again. Have you ever stayed quiet just to keep the peace, only to lose yourself in the process? If this story spoke to you, drop a comment. You never know who might need to hear your voice too.